If you are new to the channel, my name is Tryon, or Try for short. Preferred pronouns, they, them, but any and all are acceptable. Hey, welcome to our Magic the Gathering podcast, Such a Brew About Nothing. This is episode 9. We are going to be talking about 2 decks today. The Kadeen Samurai deck that I call Johnny Silverhand, because Johnny Silverhand was the lead singer of the band Samurai in Cyberpunk 2077, and Ninja Vanish, which is helmed by Satoru Umezawa, taking its name from the line from the Ninja Turtles movie from many years ago. I do want to let everybody know that we do have ads incoming in like 4.5 minutes. If you don't want to watch ads, there's a few ways you can do that. First and foremost being by subscribing. It's like $6 a month and you get 20 free emotes that you get to use all across Twitch. We are in the month of Mental Health May, so we have a bunch of different mental health, well, not necessarily mental health themed emotes, but emotes that make me smile. In addition to that, if you're already subbed to the channel and want to help a homie not watch ads, you can always gift a sub. It's like the same price, but maybe you were gifted a sub in the last big sub bomb we had on the channel and you want to help somebody out, somebody else out, and pay it forward. Well, then you can do that. On top of that, if you have Amazon Prime, you get a free sub every month to a Twitch channel of your choice with Twitch Prime. Why not consider this channel? I think it's pretty good, but I'm also pretty biased. On top of that, if you have Twitch Turbo, you can watch ad-free across all of Twitch, and Twitch then pays the streamer the same amount as if a Tier 1 sub is watching during a scheduled ad break. And it's like $13 or something. It's not very expensive. And it's a great way to support the content that you love without having to sit through those pesky ads. On top of those, I get it, the economy's in a real weird spot. If you can't afford those but still want to toss a coin to your streamer, you can do so in the form of bits. It's a great way of saying, hey, I like what you do, keep doing it, without breaking the bank. And leaving you more money for Magic cards. But do want to stress that any and all financial compensation on this channel is always utmost appreciated, but is never required. Just the fact that you're here, whether engaging in the chat or quietly lurking and being entertained, all those things mean the fucking world to me. You mean the fucking world to me. All right. So we have quite a few cards to talk about today. Let me get the deck lists pulled up because I did pin them in the pinned message in chat there. So if you'd like to see the deck lists on our Archidect page, there is a handy dandy link on our Twitch channel there in the link section where you can see all the different decks that we've built. But we do always post the links to the deck lists in the chat and the description of the VODs as well. Let's see here. Trying to figure out how to get sorry, they've gone and changed things on me again on Twitch, so I don't entirely know how to make the chat disappear on my screen. It doesn't matter. It's not important. Do want to also send a quick shout out to the people who made the music for this podcast, both Happy Boy Games, Happy_Boy_ Games. What's up, guy? How's it going? Welcome on in, buddy. Want to send a shout out to Happy Boy Games and also to Omega on Deck, who've made all of the music that you will be hearing in the podcast today. There's a handy dandy link in the chat there that will take you to the Spotify playlist we made that has all of Omega's songs on it that we use on stream. There's no link for the The channel themes that Happy made for us, the Get Comfy, Get Cozy Let's Play, just because those are mine. He made them for me. But we do play them on the stream. But that said, let's jump right in and talk about some Magic cards, shall we? So, up first here, let me turn the music up a little bit more. There we go. So, up first we have Kadeen, first Gold Warden, costs a red and a white. It's a legendary human rebel 2/2 with trample, and whenever Kadeen, first Gold Warden, attacks, he gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of equipped creatures you control. Then, if Kadeen's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. So, I know that, yes, are there legendary red-white samurai that could be the commander of this deck? Sure, absolutely. But this commander is very good for this deck because this isn't your typical samurai deck, right? This deck makes heavy use of the Formyridin mechanic, which we saw in Phyrexia All Will Be One. And because this commander cares about number of equipped creatures, all of the Formyridin equipment are very useful in boosting our own commander without having to have anything on him, right? So you play one of those Formyridin equipment, it comes in, it makes a 2/2 rebel and attaches to it. So then Kadeen is already going to get a boost and can help keep your hand full by drawing you cards. And then a 2/2 trample that's just going to get big that comes down on turn 2 is just pretty great. So that is the commander for this deck. This is the quintessential Johnny Silverhand himself. As I said earlier, I call the deck Johnny Silverhand because Johnny Silverhand was the lead singer and guitarist for the band Samurai in Cyberpunk. That's the bit. So let's have a look at the legendary creatures in this deck, starting off with Ryu Storm's Edge. 2 red-white for a legendary human samurai 3/3 with first strike, and whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, untap it. If it's the first combat phase of the turn, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. Why is that important? Well, Kadeen here gets his bonus when he attacks, and it's until end of turn. So, if we attack with Kadeen, he's going to get a bonus. If we attack with a samurai, we get an extra combat. Well, he's not a samurai or a warrior. He's a rebel. We have ways of making him a samurai in this deck. So the idea being you throw one of the equipments we'll see momentarily on your commander, and he will then be a samurai so that he can attack and get you those extra combats, which will then give him his bonus a second time. So say we have 3 equipped creatures, right? And he does count himself if he's equipped. If we attack, he gets +3/+3. If we have 3 equipped creatures, he becomes a 5/5. That's going to draw us a card. If he happens to be a samurai when that happens, we untap him and we get an additional combat. So we send him in again. He's going to get +3/+3 again, making him an 8/8 that will draw us a card. And there is the synergy that this deck wants to do. So lots of combats, lots of samurai, lots of equipment. This is the overall goal of this deck. Up next we have Resona Asari Commander. 1 red-white for a legendary human samurai with haste, 3/3. And whenever Resona Asari Commander deals combat damage to a player, if it doesn't have an indestructible counter on it, you put an indestructible counter on it. Also, whenever combat damage is dealt to you, you remove an indestructible counter from Rosanna. So she was originally the idea I had for a commander for this deck, to just keep sending the commander in and making her indestructible, but this deck does tend to kind of leave you a little bit open sometimes, and then you're removing the indestructibility from your commander, so it's a little harder to play around. Next up, we have Rayov Master Smith, red and white, for a 2/2 legendary dwarf artificer. Whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, that creature gains double strike until end of turn. Remember, like I said, our commander can get real big real quick. So if he even gets +2/+2, that makes him a 4/4, who's hitting for 8. Pretty decent with Rayov there. Next, we have Cole the Forge Master, red and white, for a 2/2 legendary dwarf warrior. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand. It's a little bit of protection for our commander if we get some gear on him. And creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. So again, playing off of the for Mirrodin mechanic, we're playing equipment that make bodies that they automatically attach to. So those 2/2s are going to become 3/3s with whatever bonuses the equipments give them. Next, we have Brunor Battlehammer, 2 red-white, for a legendary dwarf warrior, 5/3, with each creature you control gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it. And you may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate each turn. So typically the Mirrodin equipment are notorious for having higher equip costs because they come down for cheap, make a body and attach to it, but they cost a lot more to re-equip onto something else. So Brunor makes it a little bit easier to move some of those equipment around if we need to. Next, we have Aurelia, the Law Above, 3 red-white, for a 4/4 legendary angel with flying, vigilance, haste, and whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. Whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, Aurelia, the Law Above, deals 3 damage to each of your opponents, and you gain 3 life. So this is rewarding us for only sending in 1 creature, but if our opponents are in go wide strategies, we are gaining advantages by drawing cards and getting to lightning helix the table. Also a very good target for equipment. Flying, vigilance, and haste. Very good target for throwing equipment on her and sending her into the red zone. Next, we have Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice, 2 red-white, for a 2/5 legendary angel with flying and mentor. Mentor is, if I remember right, I have to look this up now. It's been a minute since I've read what mentor does. If I remember correctly, it is whenever they attack with creatures that have lower power, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on them. I believe that is... Yes, whenever this creature attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. So it does only do 1 target, but that's okay, because Aurelia's other abilities can make her large or make something else large, potentially. Because at the beginning of combat on your turn, you choose up to 1 target creature you control. Until end of turn, that creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample if it's red and vigilance if it's white. If you target a red-white creature, like say our commander, he's automatically going to become the 4/2 with already has trample and then has vigilance. So then our commander is big enough to trigger his own card draw. But you can also have Aurelia target herself and become a flying 4/5 that could make our commander bigger. Next we have Kellen the Fey-Blooded, 2 and a red for a legendary human fairy 2/2 with double strike, and other creatures you control get +1/+0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellen the Fey-Blooded. Also, this is an adventure creature. We haven't seen a lot of these before. The adventure is Birthright Boon, 1 and a white for a sorcery. Says search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So you just get to tutor up one of your equipments from your deck. And then this card goes into exile on an adventure. You can then cast it for its creature half and bring in Kellen to then be a 2/2 double striker that will boost your board if he's equipped. And it is for each aura and equipment. So he could potentially make your entire board pretty decently sized. Next we have Rook, Hexgold Nabber, 2 and a red for a legendary Goblin Rebel, 2/2 with trample and haste. And whenever an equipped creature you control other than Rook Hexgold Nabber attacks or dies, you may attach all equipment attached to that creature to Rook. So he's a perfect target if we want to send in all of our 2/2 rebels that the Vermeerden stuff have made. If we want to attack with all of them, we just get free equip of all of those equipments onto Rook, and could make him very large very quickly, potentially. Next we have Morag, Fury of Akum, 4 red for a legendary Minotaur Warrior, 6/6, with each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn. Very important here, because he also has Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So this doesn't have a limitation of how many times it triggers. So if we can get multiple land drops in a turn, we get to take multiple combats. You'll see how that can be done in a little bit. Next we have Gilgamesh, Master at Arms, 4 red for a legendary human samurai, 6/6, with whenever Gilgamesh enters or attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put any number of equipment cards from among them onto the battlefield. That can get out of control very quick, because a lot of our equipment make bodies when they come in. Also, you then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and when you put one or more equipment onto the battlefield this way, you may attach one of them to a samurai you control. So of any and all equipments that we put into play, we could attach to any of our samurai, including Gilgamesh. This is a recent Final Fantasy card that I found that is just very good for this deck. Next we have Godo Bandit Warlord, because of course this is an equipment deck and we want to take extra combats. This is one half of a 2-part infinite combo that wins the game. We'll explain later. But Godo Bandit Warlord costs 5 and a red for a legendary human barbarian, 3/3. With when Godo Bandit Warlord enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card and put it onto the battlefield. If you do, shuffle your library. Then, whenever Godo attacks for the first time each turn, untap it and all samurai you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So, you probably already know the combo if you've ever seen Godo in a deck, but because it also untaps all samurai, we could potentially send in any and all of our samurai and get to untap them and continue attacking if need be as well. Next we have Rograk, Son of Roga, 0 mana for a 0/1 legendary Kobold Warrior. Has First Strike, Menace, and Trample. Well, why does that matter? Well, because we're in an equipment deck. It's a free creature that has decent keywords, and we have a few different ways that we can just snap equipment onto things. So you throw enough equipment on him, and he can become your main attacker, if need be. Next, we have Goro Goro, Disciple of Ryusei, 1 in red for a legendary Goblin Samurai, 2/2. You can pay a red, and creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. Also, you can pay 3 red to create a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying. But you have to activate it only if you control an attacking modified creature. So you can continue to activate this as long as you have the mana to do so. But you do have to be in combat and be attacking with a creature that is enchanted, equipped, or has a counter on it. But this actually, I've seen this creature growing in popularity recently because of the Avatar set with all of the firebending stuff. People looking at that second ability and saying, oh, that's great for firebending. You just dump all your red mana from firebending into this and make dragons. Next, we have Heiko Yamazaki, the General, 3 and a red for a legendary human samurai, 3/3, with trample, and whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, you may cast target artifact card from your graveyard this turn. So it's getting us some graveyard recursion. Then, we have the other half of the Yamazakis. We have Norika Yamazaki, the Poet, 2 and a white, for a legendary human samurai, 3/2, with vigilance. And whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, you may cast target enchantment card from your graveyard this turn. So they both kind of do similar things. One cares about artifacts, the other cares about enchantments. We have a couple of enchantments in this deck, not a ton, but have the ability to recur them is very important, because one Vandal Blast could just absolutely ruin this deck. It is kind of a weakness that it has. But with this creature, we remove a potential weakness. We have Runetail Kitsune Ascendant, 2 and a white for a legendary creature Fox Monk, 2/2, that says when you have 30 or more life, flip Runetail Kitsune Ascendant. So this is kind of how they originally did transforming creatures back in the Kamigawa, the original Kamigawa block. You'd have, this creature on one side, and then you'd meet a criteria, and you would flip it 180 degrees, and it would become the other thing. In this case, it becomes Runetail's Essence. You prevent all damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. It becomes a legendary enchantment. So, this is one of my favorite turn 3 plays, or less if you have the right ramp, because you can just drop Runetail, and if you have over 30 life, it immediately flips into an enchantment. And now we just prevent all damage to our creatures. Moving on into the non-legendary creatures. Up first we have Asari Captain, 3 red-white for a human samurai, 4/3 with haste, and whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, it gets +1/0 until end of turn for each samurai or warrior you control. So again, what we ideally want to do is get an equipment on our commander that would make him a samurai or warrior, and then have him getting big boosts for all of the things that we hold back as blockers. Next we have Upriser Renegade, 1 and a red for a human samurai, 1/3, with Upriser Renegade gets +2/+0 for each other modified creature you control. Again, because this deck makes tokens that our equipment attached to, we can make a bunch of modified creatures pretty quickly, making this a pretty large creature for 2 mana. After that, we have Aki Ronin, 1 and a red for a 1/3 Goblin Samurai. And whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. You just get to rummage. Keeps your options open in a red-white deck. Next up, we have Peerless Samurai, 2 and a red for a 2/3 Human Samurai with Menace. So Menace, of course, has to be blocked by 2 or more creatures if it's blocked. And whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, the next spell you cast this turn costs 1 less to cast. Very helpful in our decks that have some big mana cost things. Next up, we have Bladegraft Aspirant, 2 and a red for a 2/3 Phyrexian Warrior, so it triggers any of those warrior synergies that our samurai care about. Has Menace, and says equipment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Perfect. We love cost reduction. In addition, activated abilities of equipment you control that target Bladegraft Aspirant cost 1 less to activate. So, he's a perfect thing to just suit up and send into combat. Next up is Starnheim Courser, 2 and a white, for a 2/2 Pegasus with flying, and artifact and enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Now, as you will see in this deck, we do have a lot of artifacts. We have a couple of enchantments, but we actually make a lot more use of artifact and enchantment creatures. And this doesn't care if it's creature spells, it's artifact and enchantment spells. So if they happen to be both of those types, Starnheim Courser helps us get them out earlier. After that, we have Pure Steel Paladin, one of my favorite pieces in the deck. Pure Steel Paladin is white for a 2/2 Human Knight, with whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. And has Metalcraft. Equipment you control have equipped 0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. Like I said, usually not hard to hit in this deck. And then now all of our equipment equips for 0, so we can just move it around as we need to on whatever creatures we'd like. Next up is Seven-Tail Mentor, 3 and a white for a 2/3 Fox Samurai. And when Seven-Tail Mentor enters the battlefield or dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control. So, again, it's a perfect target to throw some equipment on, send it into combat. It enters, it's going to put a 1/1 counter. It dies, it's going to put a 1/1 counter. So it will be able to boost other creatures. After that, we have Imperial Subduer, 2 and a white for a 3/2 Human Samurai, with whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, tap target creature you don't control. I've used this one to great effect against an opponent who had a Gissa Sunslayer deck, who has First Strike and Death Touch. Makes great use of that effect by just tapping down their First Strike Death Toucher so that you can be able to get into combat. Next is the Selfless Samurai, 1 and a white for a 2/2 Fox Samurai, with whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, it gains lifelink until end of turn. Perfect, we love gaining life. And also, at instant speed, you can sacrifice Selfless Samurai so that another target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. We've seen this in a few different creatures before, Selfless Savior being famously one of them, that you can sacrifice to save something from dying. Well, we have that now in a samurai. Next up is the Sunblade Samurai, 4 and a white for a 4/4 human samurai with vigilance, and has channel for 2. So channel is an ability you have to use from hand. You pay the cost, you discard the card, and you get some kind of effect. In this case, channel 2, discard Sunblade Samurai, search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle, and you gain 2 life. So it's nice early game because it will help you ramp in white, but late game, a 4/4 vigilance for 5 that we can suit up or give abilities, but with all of our other samurai, is pretty nice. It's good versatility. Also, I didn't mention earlier, but you do see all of the, for those watching the video or VOD of this, many of the samurai that you're seeing here, these are the alternate art versions from the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty set. I really like the alt arts in there. It kind of brought the anime alt arts to the forefront of Magic, and I really, really dug it. Next up we have Eiganjo Exemplar, 1 and a white for a 2/1 human samurai, with whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. This is also an enchantment creature. So again, Starnheim Courser is going to make this only a single white. One of the Yamazakis will let us recast this from our graveyard as it's an enchantment. So there's a little bit of recurring we can do there with him. Speaking of other enchantments, a very good target for enchantment removal, we have Aggravated Assault, 2 and a red for an enchantment that you can pay 3 red and untap all creatures you control. If it's a main phase, there's an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase, but you have to activate this only at sorcery speed. So you can pay this, move to combat. You pay this in your main phase, you move to combat. You get to, well, you want to second main phase, I should say. Move to combat, attack with your stuff, second main, you play this, you pay its cost, you untap all your stuff, you get another combat, you can pay it in that next main phase afterwards, and so on. So as long as you have good mana, you can actually take infinite combat steps. Again, this was another target that people, another auto-include for people that were making good use of the firebending mechanic from Avatar. Of course, firebending did not exist when I built this deck, so you're not going to see really any of it make an appearance here. Next up is Gratuitous Violence, 2 red for an enchantment that says if a creature you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. I really like having Gratuitous Violence in here because of the ways we have to give our commander double strike. So because this is not, it's not giving double strike, it's dealing double damage. It does stack with double strike, though. So, say our commander's even just a 2/2, right? Kadeen, out of the box, he's swinging for 2 damage, right? With swing, he's actually dealing 4 damage, and if we have any way to give him double strike, he's going to deal 4 damage twice. Remember, in Commander, it only takes 21 Commander damage to kill an opponent. I have won many games with Commander damage and Kadeen. Next up, we have Duelist's Heritage, 2 and a white for an enchantment. It says whenever 1 or more creatures attack, you may have target attacking creature gain double strike until end of turn. This is not only a good piece for our commander, but it's a good politics piece, because this doesn't say creatures we control. It's just whenever a creature attacks, we can have target attacking creature gain double strike. It doesn't have to be alone. It can be in a group. It's just a nice way of going, all right, this thing is big, I'm going to make it hit twice. Next up, Angelic Exaltation, 3 and a white for an enchantment, says whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Again, pairs very well with our commander because we have a lot of equipment that make tokens, so they're going to make lots of bodies. He's going to get +X for all of those 4 Mirrodin bodies we've made. And if he's attacking alone, he'll get +X for all of those bodies we've made. So you can make Kadeen very big, very quickly in this deck. And there's a little bit of a sub-theme of angels, as you may have seen with the couple Aurelias that we have. And also, Divine Visitation. It's an enchantment, costs 3 white. It says, if one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. Why is that important? Well, because of the Mirrodin mechanic. Mirrodin says when this equipment enters, you make a 2/2 rebel token and then attach this equipment to it. Divine Visitation is a replacement effect. Says, oh, you're making a token? Well, instead that token's going to be a 4/4 flying vigilance angel. And then the Mirrodin equipment still attaches to that token you've just made. So this is a very fun one with the Mirrodin stuff. Or Living Weapon, or Job Select. Any of those equipment that make tokens that they come in attached to, this works very well with them. And moving into our equipments, we have the Eater of Virtue, 1 mana for a legendary artifact equipment, equips for 1, says whenever equipped creature dies, exile it. The equipped creature gets +2/+0, and as long as a card exiled with Eater of Virtue has flying, the equipped creature has flying. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Protection, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. So all of your major keywords. This piece is in here not only because it's a katana in a samurai deck, but we do have quite a few creatures that'll have incidental keywords. You want to be able to send them into combat, and then if they die, well, now this equipment is going to give those keywords to the next thing that wields the sword. So, perfect example, the Aurelia Law above had flying, vigilance, and haste. If she's holding the sword and dies, she gets exiled. Now the next thing we give the sword will have flying, vigilance, and haste. So this is a very fun equipment for the deck to be able to move keywords around with. Next up we have Aetir and Priwen, 6 mana legendary artifact equipment, equips for 5, and equipped creature has base power and toughness XX, where X is your life total. Friends, I don't think I need to tell you how big a creature can get if you have 40 life, and you're able to snap this on them. We have a few ways that we can give lifelink to our creatures. You put Aetir and Priwen on a creature, it's just going to become massive. When you have a commander that inherently has trample, this card can kill opponents in a single hit, potentially. And our final legendary equipment of the deck, we have the Helm of the Host. That's right, I'm a degenerate and a monster, because this deck does have the 2 pieces that everybody expects. So I'll explain the combo in a second here after we read Helm of the Host. Helm of the Host is 4 mana legendary artifact equipment, equips for 5, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you create a token that's a copy of equipped creature. Except the token isn't legendary if the equipped creature is legendary. and that token gains haste. So this is how you win the game on the spot. Okay? Godo comes in, he searches for an equipment and puts it onto the battlefield. You search for Helm of the Host, he puts it directly into play. If you have another 5 mana, you put Helm of the Host on Godo, we move to combat. Start of combat, we make a token copy of Godo. That token copy is going to let us get another equipment, if we'd like, and put it into play. And then we send that 3/3 Godo at an opponent, the token copy that we just made. Godo says, when he attacks for the first time each turn, untap him and all samurai. And then there's an additional combat. Well, what that really reads is when this card attacks. So that token copy we make has haste. If you send it into combat, that is seeing Godo attacking for the first time. So it's going to untap him, and give us an additional combat. Whether or not the token lives or dies doesn't matter, because damage isn't going to wear off until the end of turn. So we send Godo. That copy, whatever happens, happens. We get an additional combat. At start of combat, we're going to make another Godo token. And you send that one, and so on. And you just infinitely make Godos that you get to send into combat and attack your opponents until they're eventually dead. So that is the infinite win combo. It doesn't happen often, but when your opponents see you resolve a Godo Bandit Warlord, most of them are expecting you to win the game on the spot. Moving into our other equipment in the deck, I've talked a lot about the 4 Mirrodin stuff, so let's have a look at that. First up, we have Bladehold War Whip, 1 red-white for an artifact equipment with for Mirrodin. So when this equipment enters, we make a 2/2 red rebel creature token, and Bladehold War Whip attaches to that token. It does have equip for 3 red-white, so like I said, the casting cost usually not super high, but the equip cost on these are very high. Equip abilities you activate of other equipment do cost 1 less to activate, which is pretty nice, and the equipped creature has double strike. So what this is for 1 red-white, we make a 2/2 double strike, right? Because this is going to come in and attach to the thing it made. We could move this onto something else if necessary, but we have ways of cheating those equip costs. Also, this is the reason why the Godo Helm is a fun combo to pull off. Yes, you're also winning the game, potentially, but you're also then getting to tutor up all of these equipment with Godo on each of those copies you're making, right? Next up, we have Glimmer Lens. 1 and a white for an artifact equipment. Equips for 1 and a white, has for Mirrodin. And whenever equipped creature and at least 1 other creature attack, draw a card. This is actually one of my favorite equipments to throw on Kadeen, because then if he's gaining enough power, he's drawing a card inherently. And if we're attacking with him and something else, we're getting to draw a card. So we're drawing 2 cards every time he attacks. Next is Kemba's Banner. 3 and a white for an artifact equipment, has for Mirrodin. Equips for 2 and a white. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. Can get very big when you make a bunch of rebel tokens. After that, we have Mirren Bardash, 4 and a white for an artifact equipment, has for Mirrodin. Equips for 3 and a white. An equipped creature gets +2/+1 and has vigilance. So 5 mana, you're getting a 4/3 vigilance, effectively. After that, we have the Barbed Batter Fist. 1 and a red for an artifact equipment. Has for Mirrodin. Equipped creature gets +1/-1, and it equips for 1. So, 2 mana, you get a 3/1, because it's +1/-1. So we make a 2/2, gets +1/-1. 2 mana, 3/1, that's pretty decent. After that is Hexplate Wallbreaker. 3 red for an artifact equipment. Has for Mirrodin. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. So we're 5 mana, 4/4. Okay. It equips for 3 and a red. But most importantly, whenever equipped creature attacks, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap each attacking creature. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So this is one of the ways that we just keep getting our commander huge. If you throw this on Kadeen, he gets to attack, become large, attack again, become larger, and so on. Next up is Volshock Splitter, 3 and a red for an artifact equipment with 4 Mirrodin. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and equips for 2 and a red. So 4 mana, 4/2. Effectively, right? Like I said, a lot of these aren't making things that are necessarily special. They have higher power than toughness, but we mainly care about the equipment making bodies that it attaches to, so that our commander will get a +1/+1 for each of those creatures we have, because they're all equipped. After that is Dragonwing Glider, 3 red for an artifact equipment with for Mirrodin. Equips for 3 red. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has flying and haste. So you're basically getting a hasty dragon, effectively, right? Because you're making a 4/4, effectively, and has flying and haste. 5 mana, 4/4 flying haste. That's pretty good return for mana cost. After that is the Meteoric Mace. 4 red for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +4/+0 and has trample. Equips for 4 and has Cascade. So when you cast this spell, you get to Cascade. So you reveal cards from the top of your deck until you hit a non-land card that costs 5 or less, and you get to cast that card for free. So it's just a way to get some of the hopefully bigger things out of your deck for free. And +4/0 and haste, pretty good. Next is the new Batter Skull, effectively. Improved Arsenal, 1 and a red for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. And you can pay 4 and a red to create a token that's a copy of this equipment, and it equips for a single red. So I like to throw this one on Kadeen so that he's base 3/2, he attacks, and he gets a +1/+1 just for attacking himself, so that he becomes a 4/3 trample. But if necessary, we can make more copies of this. So if we don't have enough equipment to go around on all of our creatures, we can just make more improvised arsenals and put them on other creatures. And then I did mention earlier, we have ways of making our commander a samurai. We have ways of making him a warrior. We have ways of making him a cat, or a vampire, or any other creature type we need. And that is through Amorphous Axe. 2 mana artifact equipment, equips for 3. Equipped creature gets +3/+0 and is every creature type. Pure and simple. You just get to put this on the commander, and now he's a samurai that gets all those bonuses from all of our other samurai. Because we only really need to attack with our commander, so he's generally going to be the creature attacking alone and getting a whole bunch of boosts and bonuses. Second way to make him every creature type, the Runed Stalactite. 1 mana for an artifact equipment, equips for 2. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and is every creature type. So we have a couple different ways to get our commander to be a samurai. After that, we move into our non-equipment artifacts, starting with Veil of Assimilation. 1 and a white for an artifact. Says whenever Veil of Assimilation or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains vigilance until end of turn. I like having this one out. Just it's a nice little, incidental boost for our commander, who's then going to also make himself bigger for the equipped creatures we have. So by just playing out our equipments, we can stack on bonuses onto Kadeen. Next is Talisman of Conviction. It's a mana rock. 2 mana, artifact, taps for colorless, or taps for a red or white, but deals 1 damage to you. Next mana rock, you know it, you love it. It's the Arcane Signet. 2 mana, artifact, taps for 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. And the final mana rock, Soul Ring, costs 1. It's an artifact, taps for 2 colorless. Listen, pretty much every commander deck is going to have, at this point, going to have a Soul Ring, an Artifact Signet, and a Command Tower. Just about. And that's it for our artifacts. Let's have a look at our last non-land cards in the deck. Starting with our Planeswalker suite, we have the Wandering Emperor. 2 white for a legendary Planeswalker. Enters with 3 loyalty. Has flash, so we can cast her at instant speed. And as long as the Wandering Emperor entered the battlefield this turn, you may activate her loyalty abilities anytime you could cast an instant. So, she's usually used as a defensive card. Because +1, you could put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and it gains first strike until end of turn. Pretty good to be able to eat something that your opponent's attacking with. Or -1, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance. Or most commonly what Wandering Emperor ends up doing is -2, exile target tapped creature, you gain 2 life. So comes in with 3 loyalty at instant speed, you can -2 and exile something your opponent is attacking you with. That's very often how you see Wandering Emperor used in Magic. Next we have the further version of the Wandering Emperor. This is the Eternal Wanderer. 4 white for a legendary Planeswalker. Enters with 5 loyalty. And says no more than 1 creature can attack the Eternal Wanderer each combat. +1 is exile up to 1 target artifact or creature. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of that player's next end step. So we very often use that plus ability on our Mirrodin equipment so that we can blink them and get them to make more tokens. You could also 0 loyalty to create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with double strike. It's just a good target to put equipment on if we need. Or for -4, so it can do it the turn it comes down, for each player, choose a creature that player controls. Each player sacrifices all creatures they control not chosen this way. So effectively, Eternal Wanderer can act as a board wipe. Effectively, you drop Eternal Wanderer, we target our commander, and we blow everything else up. But because most of our creatures are probably coming from equipment that we've made, that we can then blink with her plus tick on a future turn, we can reset a lot faster, typically, than our opponents can. After that, we have Nahiri the Lithomancer, 3 white for legendary Planeswalker Nahiri. This was before they made all Planeswalkers legendary. They are all now, since, have been eroded to be legendary. Enters with 3 loyalty, and does have a static ability saying Nahiri the Lithomancer can be your commander. So this was from one of the Commander precons back when they did a bunch of monocolor Commander decks that all had Planeswalkers at the helm. Her plus ability is +2. You put a 1/1 white core soldier creature token onto the battlefield, and you may attach an equipment you control to it. Yo, what's up, Elf? How's it going? Welcome in. For -2 loyalty, you may put an equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. Nahiri's primarily in here for that second ability right there, because, like I said, we have a few pieces that are very good for us, like Helm of the Host, and most commonly where a Godo combo gets stopped is your opponent either kills Godo or they blow up your Helm of the Host or counter it or what have you before you have a chance to get it into play. So this minus ability is a great way to get it back from the graveyard. And her ultimate, for a whopping 10 loyalty, put a colorless equipment artifact token named Stoneforged Blade onto the battlefield. It has indestructible, and equipped creature gets +5/+5 and has double strike and equip for 0. So if you can get her loyalty up high enough, great. You get to make an indestructible sword that your opponents can't do anything about. And we get to just move it onto whatever we want. That should end a game. Remember that this is before they had really realized how big Commander was going to be and how hated Planeswalkers were going to be in that format. I, to this day, have yet to actually get that ultimate to fire off because, as everyone knows, if you've ever put a Commander into play or a Planeswalker into play in Commander, it basically becomes on site for that Planeswalker. Excuse me. Had to hydrate there. Been yapping for almost an hour straight. Next up is Nahiri the Harbinger, or Harbinger. I've heard a few ways that's said. I like to say Harbinger. 2 red-white for a legendary Planeswalker Nahiri. Enters with 4 loyalty. For +2, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Great. Card selection. -2, exile target enchantment, tapped artifact, or tapped creature. Decent removal. If our opponent has a problematic thing, we can just remove it. And for -8, search your library for an artifact or creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It gains haste. Return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. I have used this to do a Godo thing. It was nasty. Because I use this, I go get Godo, put Godo into play, Godo gets the helm. I used my 5 mana to then put the helm on Godo and win the game. After that, we have Nahiri Storm of Stone, 2 Boros. So this is the red-white hybrid mana. For a legendary Planeswalker Nahiri, enters with 6 loyalty and has a static ability. As long as it's your turn, creatures you control have first strike, and equip abilities you activate cost 1 less to activate. That's great with our Commander, because our Commander's already got Trample and is going to get large. So we want to give him first strike. And then for -X loyalty, Nahiri Storm of Stone deals X damage to target tapped creature. So, if necessary, we can remove up to a 6 toughness creature. It does blow up our Nahiri, though. And we have Nahiri's final form, as far as we've seen so far. We have Nahiri the Unforgiving, for a total of 4 mana. Caveat. Her mana cost is very weird, but it's 1 red hybrid Phyrexian Boros and white. So she could cost 3 mana, 1 red white, she could cost 4 mana, and that 4th pip could be red or white. Or, because it's also Phyrexian mana, you can pay 2 life in place of that. Now, that is because Legendary Planeswalker Nahiri comes in with 5 loyalty, asterisk. She has the completed ability. So that Phyrexian Boros hybrid mana, if you pay it with 2 life, Nahiri does enter with 2 fewer loyalty counters. So, if we pay 3 mana, she enters as a 3 loyalty. If we pay the full 4 mana, she enters with 5 loyalty. Her +1 is, until your next turn, up to 1 target creature attacks a player, each combat if able. Kind of a goad type thing, but this was no, this wasn't before they had codified goad. You're just forcing something to attack. It is kind of nice because sometimes you have something giant and your opponent has a good static creature that you really want gone, so you force it to attack, and hopefully maybe your opponent or yourself could block it and kill the thing that you need gone. But more often we end up using the other +1, which is discard a card, then draw a card. Like I said, it's just card selection. And for 0 loyalty, exile target creature or equipment card with mana value less than Nahiri's loyalty from your graveyard. Sorry, the foiling is a little bit tricky for me to read. From your graveyard, you create a token that's a copy of it, and that token gains haste. You exile it at the beginning of the next end step. So, this is the other way that I've used to Godo the table, because, like I said, the other way you stop a Godo combo is your opponent kills Godo in response before you can move to combat. So then you drop Nahiri, you hit the 0, you exile Godo, you make a copy of him, and then you get to do the combo again. So it's really just protections for our some of our various ways to win in big player games. Next up is Chain Reaction, 2 red for a sorcery. Chain Reaction deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. Again, our deck makes a good use of the Mirrodin mechanic, so a lot of our board we're okay with losing because we have a ton of equipment, and the primary means of player removal that we use is suiting up our commander or making a wide board so that we can just send our commander. Well, if all of our creatures die, then we just start throwing equipment on our commander and making him the keyword soup. Next, we have No Witnesses, 2 white for a sorcery. Each player who controls the most creatures investigates. Then destroy all creatures. So, again, we very often will easily wind up with the most creatures because of all of the rebel tokens that this deck makes. So, yes, we're board wiping, but we get a clue out of it, so at least we're getting some card draw. And board wipes the table. After that, we have Collective Effort, 1 white for a sorcery. With Escalate, you tapped an untapped creature you control, and each time you do that, you can choose an additional mode, right? So, you choose 1 or more. Remember that for each mode beyond the first that we choose, we have to tap an untapped creature. The first mode is Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. Second is Destroy target enchantment. And third mode, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. So, most commonly this is getting used to buff the board, or our board specifically, but sometimes you're willing to tap one of the 2/2 rebel tokens you made to get rid of a problematic enchantment, like a Ghostly Prison, or destroy a big creature. So, the modality is very useful. After that, we have Clever Concealment, 2 white for an instant with Convoke, so our creatures can help us cast this spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 or 1 of that creature's color. The nice thing is with the 4/4 Flying Vigilance Angels we make off of Divine Visitation, they all have Vigilance, so we could send them into attack and then still keep them up to help convoke out this spell. And it lets any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out. Basically, we treat them and anything attached to them as though they don't exist until our next turn. So this is good board wipe protection against the few board wipes we have in our deck. Or that our opponents may have, for that matter. Next up is Path to Exile. You know it, you love it. If you're in white, play Path to Exile. It's 1 white mana for an instant. You exile target creature. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. I've actually used this and exiled one of my own Rebel tokens just to help me mana ramp. And finally, Boros Charm. Red and white for an instant. Choose 1. Boros Charm deals 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. Or permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Or target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Most commonly, we're choosing indestructible because we're using this to avoid board wipes. And that's it for the non-land cards in the deck. Let's have a look at our non-basic lands. Starting with Command Tower. So Command Tower, of course, like I said, it's in just about every commander deck. It's a land that taps for 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. And we're probably going to move through these a little bit faster unless we've run into some that are not very common lands to see. Next we have Path of Ancestry. It's a land that enters tapped, adds 1 color in your commander's color identity when it taps, and when you use that mana to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. Exotic Orchard is up next. Taps for any color that an opponent's land could produce. Opal Palace is a land that taps for colorless, or we could pay 1 and tap to add 1 mana, add to your mana pool 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. If you spend this mana to cast your commander, it enters the battlefield with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it, equal to the number of times it's been cast from the command zone this game. This was before they had really kind of figured out the wording on that, but because our commander only costs 2, he very often becomes a target for removal. And so there's been a few games I've played where you're casting him 4 times in a game, and having him come in as a bigger trampling commander is even better for us. Next is Rogue's Passage, of course, because we want to be able to get in unblocked. This land taps for colorless, or you can pay for it and tap it. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. It's a nice way to just ensure that you kill an opponent. Then we have Forge of Heroes, taps for colorless, or you can tap and choose target commander that entered the battlefield this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, and a loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker. So because our commander is a creature, it's only going to do the +1/+1 counter. Then we have Buried Ruin, taps for colorless, or pay 2, tap, and sacrifice Buried Ruin, and return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Again, this is protection or recursion for any of our artifacts that we may need. Typically, it's the Helm of the Host that it gets back, but if there's another one that we just absolutely need, then there's good recursion on a land. After that, we have the Myriad Landscape. It enters the battlefield tapped and taps for a colorless, and you can pay 2, tap, and sacrifice Myriad Landscape to search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type, and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Just good ramp. A decent ramp. Remember, this card came out a while ago. They've made... Magic's getting more and more powerful. But back in the day when Commander was first starting out, that was some of the best ramp you could get in not green. Then we have Reliquary Tower. It's a land. We have no max hand size. Taps for colorless. With how many cards our Commander potentially draws us, you like having a Reliquary Tower so that you don't have to get rid of any of those cards that you're drawing. Then, of course, with how many cards we have that care about attacking alone, so because we have a number of those samurai that want to attack alone, you want to be able to have ways to make them slightly larger, right? How I do that here is with Cathedral of War. It's a colorless land, enters the battlefield tapped, taps for a colorless, but has Exalted. So whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So again, because a lot of the samurai care about attacking alone, it's just nice to have Exalted on something. This is just a static thing. So we just drop this land, and now anytime we attack with a singular creature, it's going to get larger. Then we have Temple of the False God. It's a land that taps for 2 colorless, but you can only activate this ability if you control 5 or more lands. Note, it does count itself. So, as long as you have 4 other lands, this can get you 2 more mana. Next is Slayer's Stronghold. It's a land taps for colorless, but you could pay a red and a white and tap, and target creature gets +2/+0 and gains vigilance and haste until end of turn. This is one of the cards that I make, lands that I make good use of. If it's, you know, later game and we are recasting our commander and are close to the kill, well, we spend the mana we need on our commander, pay the 2, and then give him a boost, which will draw us a card, and give him vigilance and haste. Next is Fury Calm Snarl. We're moving into our 2-color lands now. Fury Calm Snarl is a land that enters the battle. As it enters, you may reveal a mountain or a plains from your hand, and if you don't, it enters tapped. Taps for red or white. Battlefield Forge. It's a land taps for a colorless or can tap for a red or a white, but deals a damage to you. Boros Garrison, one of the bounce lands, enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, you return a land you control to its owner's hand, and taps for a red and white. So it makes you 2 mana, but you have to return a land. Then we have Clifftop Retreat. As it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain or a plains, and taps for a red or a white. Temple of Triumph enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters, you get to scry 1 and taps for a red or a white. Elegant Parlor, kind of like the Temple of Triumph, but better, because this is a mountain plains, so it will tap for red or white, but it also has those land types that we care about for certain cards. It does enter the battlefield tapped, and when it enters, you surveil 1. Sundown Pass is up next. Sundown Pass is up next, I should say. When Sundown Pass enters the battlefield tapped, unless you control 2 or more other lands. So these are, I believe these are the slow lands or the tango lands. I forget what the nickname is for these ones, but it's a decent land pretty much in general because it doesn't care if it's basics. It just cares if you have 2 or more. So turn 3, this comes down untapped. Turn 1 or 2, do we generally need it untapped? Not really, so it's good versatility. And then we have Sacred Foundry. It's a mountain plains, so it's going to tap for that red or white. And when it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. This, of course, is the Infinity Shockland version of Sacred Foundry. Then we're getting into our single colored lands, starting with Windbrisk Heights. This has Hideaway 4. So as it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 4 cards of your library, you exile one face down and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It does enter the battlefield tapped. It taps for a white mana, and you can pay a white and tap it to play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if you attacked with 3 or more creatures this turn, which is not hard to do in our very aggro equipment deck. And final non-basic land, we have Castle Embreth. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain, taps for a red, and you can pay 1 red and tap for all creatures we control to get +1/+0. So this is just a nice little, insurance if we need to alpha swing and kill our last few remaining opponents. And, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. That is not the last non-basic land. There is a few left. Mainly, a legendary land. This is Sokenzan Crucible of Defiance. Enters untapped, taps for a red, and has Channel 3 and a red. You discard Sokenzan Crucible of Defiance. You create 2 1/1 colorless spirit creature tokens. They gain haste until end of turn. And this ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So sometimes, like I said, sometimes you get hit with that board wipe, you lose all your tokens. If this shows up late game, it's a great way to just make a couple of tokens that we could put some equipment on. Just to help Kadeen's strategy of wanting to have other equipped creatures to make him large. And then moving into our basic lands, we have Basic Mountain. This is the Oil Slick Foil Mountain. We have Phyrexian Full Art Foil Mountain. We have, well, actually, this is the All Will Be One Full Art Foil Mountain. Then we have the Phyrexian Full Art Mountain in foil. We have the Kamigawa Mountains, first one, and second one. We have Foil Plains from Infinity. The Oil Slick Foil Plains. These lands are actually really cool. I like the black on black. You can't actually see a lot of the design in the background unless the light hits it just right. Then we have the Full Art Plains from All Will Be One. Full Art Phyrexian Plains. And then our Kamigawa Plains. And last one there. So not a lot of basics in the deck, but there's also not a lot of... The land base is pretty decent in this. We have, what, how many basics was that? 11, I think. Let me just quick count. That's 5. There's 10 basics. So is that a lot? Maybe not, but we have a very low mana curve in this deck. Looking at, let me put something back on screen here for y'all. There we go. Looking at our mana curve, again, the commander we want to be casting on turn 2. That's kind of goal number 1. Average mana curve in this deck. We have 17 2-drops, 13 3-drops, 16 4-drops. So we kind of hit this double hump, kind of split between 2 and 4. But 90% of the time we're casting our commander on turn 2. So that by turn 3, we curve out, we cast a cheap equipment so that he can start getting into the red zone. So overall, there is 34 lands in the deck, which is a decent number. A lot of people say, oh, you should run more lands. To me, I tend to flood out a lot, so you do see lower mana curves in my decks. And yeah, I tend to just build with lower mana cost. If I'm hitting something that costs 4, 5, 6 mana, I'm probably only intending to cast one spell because this deck doesn't need to cast a lot of things. It's just continuing to clutter the board with creatures and try and kill you with the commander. But that's it for the Samurai deck. We are going to take a quick break as we do. Give everybody a chance to go refill their beverages, cycle their fluids, do all of the self-care things that you need to do, and hang out and vibe to some music while we do all the biological things that humans do. So, we're going to take a short little 5-10 minute there. Don't go away, everybody. We'll be back momentarily to talk more about some ninjas, which if you thought the Samurai deck was gross, you might want to buckle up because this ninjas deck is nasty. So, don't go away. We'll see you in just a few. All right, and we are going to get right back into it. Hopefully you all had a good break. Let's turn down the jams just a little bit. We are back. There we go. Let everybody know in chat. All right. Let's jump back into it, shall we? Take a look at some ninjas now. So, up first, we're going to start with our commander, Satoru Umezawa. Now, there are some pieces in this deck that we make good use of Satoru's abilities, but primarily and predominantly, this is a ninja deck with ninjutsu. So, starting off, Satoru Umezawa costs 1 blue-black for a legendary human ninja, 2/4, with whenever you activate a ninjutsu ability, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This ability only triggers once each turn, and each creature card in your hand has ninjutsu for 2 blue-black. So, all of our creatures have ninjutsu in this deck, because as long as Satoru is out. However, many of our creatures that you will see in this list are going to inherently have ninjutsu already, usually for cheaper. Starting with its ninjas, so of course we have Yuffie Kisaragi, which is a reprint from Final Fantasy of Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow. 1 blue-black for a legendary human ninja, 1/3 with Commander Ninjutsu for blue and a black. Commander Ninjutsu is ninjutsu, but can also work from the command zone. So she's there possibly as an alternate commander. This card famously is a lot of people's ninjutsu commander, but more commonly was used as a big spells commander. She's mainly in here because we just want to have lots of triggers for our ninjas. So you can pay the blue and black. How ninjutsu works, I guess I should explain ninjutsu for those who don't know. Ninjutsu is whenever you have a creature that attacks and is not blocked, you can pay a ninjutsu ability on said creature, return the unblocked attacker to your hand, and put the ninjutsu creature in its place, tapped and attacking. So Commander Ninjutsu works just like regular ninjutsu, but if this was in the command zone, we could pay blue and a black and Ninja Yuffie in. And as far as additional abilities, whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's mana value. So, why people build this as big spells is because you put a bunch of cheap unblockable things in your deck, and then you ninjutsu Yuffie in its place and hopefully hit a big spell on the top of your library to deal a bunch of damage to the table. But she does care about any time a ninja, so it's whenever. So for each ninja that we hit with, we get to do this ability. So she can rack up damage kind of quick. Next up we have Kotose the Silent Spider, 3 blue-black for a legendary human ninja, 4/4, with when Kotose the Silent Spider enters the battlefield, exile target card other than a basic land card from an opponent's graveyard. Search that player's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name as that card and exile them. Then that player shuffles. For as long as you control Kotose, you may play one of the exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. So Kotose doesn't have ninjutsu inherently, but Satoru can give her ninjutsu, which would make her 1 cheaper than her normal cost. And she gets that ability on ETB. So she's going to enter. This is kind of here as insurance against if your opponent is playing a rats deck, relentless rats, or a persistent petitioners, or slime against humanity, or any one of those decks that are built around your deck can have any number of cards. But you could also choose something else that is in their graveyard, and then you get to cast that thing. So it's doing ninja theft. Next we have Ertrada, Deadly Fugitive, 1 blue-black for a legendary vampire assassin, 1/4 with Death Touch, and face-down creatures you control have 2 blue-black. Turn this creature face up. If you can't, exile it. Then you may cast. If you can't exile it, then you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So, if you have something face down and it's a creature, you get to flip it face up. If it's anything else that's not a land, then you get to put it in your hand. Well, no, you don't put it in your hand, excuse me. You exile it and you get to cast it for free. Well, except for the 4 mana you paid. So it's a way to kind of, maybe you have some bigger spells in your deck that you want to cheat the mana cost on. This is why that's mainly in there. Also, second ability is whenever an assassin you control deals combat damage to an opponent, cloak the top card of that player's library. So we are taking our opponent's cards, turning them into 2. Whenever you cloak, it becomes a 2/2 colorless creature with ward 2. If it's a creature that is face down, we can flip it face up. If it's not, then we can pay the 2 and cast that spell. So it's more opponent deck theft is what this card does. Next we have Tegwil, Duke of Splendor, 1 blue-black for a legendary fairy noble, 2/3, flying, and Death Touch. And other fairies you control get +1/+1. Also has whenever another fairy you control dies, you may draw a card and lose a life. So what ninjutsu wants more than anything is cheap, evasive creatures, right? So there's also a little bit of a sub-theme of fairies in this deck, because they're easy ways to get attackers that your opponents aren't going to be able to block, so that you can continue to ninjutsu things in their place. Speaking of fairies, we have Obira, Dreaming Duelist, blue and a black, for a 2/2 legendary fairy warrior with flash and flying. And whenever another fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. You'll see why this is in here in a bit. I'm sure astute viewers probably have already guessed why we care about fairy drain in this deck. Moving on into our legendary ninjas, we have Nashi, Moon Sage's Scion, 1 black for a legendary rat ninja, 3/2, with ninjutsu for 3 and a black. So it does cost more to ninjutsu Nashi in, but whenever Nashi, Moon Sage's Scion, deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library. Until end of turn, you may play one of those cards. If you cast a spell this way, you pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So again, more ninja theft, taking opponents' cards, but it's each player, so it could be one of our own cards too. Next we have Classic Ninja Ink Eyes, Servant of Oni, 4 black for a legendary rat ninja, 5/4 with ninjutsu for 3 black, so a little bit cheaper if we use the ninjutsu ability. And says, whenever Ink Eyes Servant of Oni deals combat damage to a player, you may put target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You can also pay 1 and a black to regenerate Ink Eyes, so if this creature would die and you have the 2 mana, you can pay it. This creature doesn't die and instead stays on the battlefield but returns tapped, effectively. Next we have Massacre Girl, 3 black for a legendary human assassin, 4/4 with menace. Remember we have Ertrada who cares about assassins hitting, so there's also another sub-theme with assassins in here. Has menace, and when Massacre Girl enters the battlefield, each other creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. And whenever a creature dies this turn, each creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So, Massacre Girl effectively acts like a board wipe on a body, because if there's a 1/1 in play, any 1/1s are going to die. Each one that does is adding another trigger for this additional -1/-1, right? So all the 1/1s die, that then kills all the 2/2s and 3/3s and 4/4s and so on. Effectively, it kills every creature except Massacre Girl. Next we have Higure, the Still Wind, 3 blue for a legendary human ninja, 3/4 with ninjutsu for 2 blue. And whenever Higure the Steel Wind deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a ninja card, reveal it, put it in your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. And you can also pay 2, and target ninja can't be blocked this turn. So, good insurance to make sure your ninjas can get into the red zone. And you get to tutor up any ninja from your deck. Next we have Sakashima the Imposter, 2 blue for a legendary human rogue, 3/1 with you may have Sakashima the Imposter enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except its name is Sakashima the Imposter, it's legendary in addition to its other types, and has pay 2 blue, return this creature to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So if your opponent has a problematic thing and you want your own version of it, you just cast Sakashima, he becomes that thing. Now you have that problematic thing yourself. But the nice thing is, he has this ability to return himself to your hand so that you could then cast him again and have him copy something else if need be. So it's that clone jutsu. Next we have Tetsuko Umezawa, Fugitive, 1 and a blue for a legendary human rogue, 1/3 with creatures you control with power or toughness, 1 or less, can't be blocked. So she's helping ensure that some of our things that don't inherently have unblockable can be unblockable for the purposes of triggering our ninjutsu stuff. She herself is unblockable because she's a 1/3. And I did say there was non-ninjas in this deck. So these next 2 cards are part of the reason why we want Satoru in the command zone. Up first we have Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, 10 mana for a legendary creature Eldrazi, 12/12, with when you cast this spell, draw 4 cards. And Annihilator 4, so whenever this creature attacks, defending player sacrifices 4 permanents. Also, when Kozilek, Butcher of Truth is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles their graveyard into their library. So, with Satoru out, you can pay 4 mana and ninjutsu Kozilek in place of the unblocked thing. Now, it's not going to trigger the draw because you're not casting it. You're activating a ninjutsu ability. And it's not going to trigger the Annihilator because it's already entering attacking. It doesn't see the when it attacks trigger. But you are paying 4 mana for 12 damage to an opponent. which is pretty good. And then if you get to untap with it, it then is going to trigger the Annihilator again. And next we have Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, 10 mana for a 10/10 legendary creature Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, exile 2 target permanents. Again, we're not casting it with ninjutsu, but it's there. And also has Indestructible. So you got an Indestructible 10/10 in play now. And whenever Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of their library. So again, it's not going to see that trigger if we use ninjutsu, but you're paying 4 mana for a 10/10 creature attacking. Pretty good rate. Moving on to our non-legendary creatures. We have Silver Fur Master, blue and a black for a 2/2 Rat Ninja with ninjutsu for blue and a black. Ninjutsu abilities you activate cost 1 less to activate, so that will reduce the cost that Satoru gives all of our stuff. So it would only be 1 blue-black to ninjutsu anything, any of our creatures. And other ninjas and rogues you control get +1/+1. So it's a nice little ninja lord. Next we have Ingenious Infiltrator, 2 blue-black for a 2/3 Vidalcan ninja with ninjutsu for blue and a black. And whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. I love drawing cards. So, and this is for each of them. So if we have a ton of ninjas in play, you could draw quite a few cards potentially. After that, we have Silent Blade Oni, 3 blue-blue, black-black, so 7 mana for a 6/5 Demon Ninja, but has ninjutsu for 4 blue-black, or if Satoru's out, only 2 blue-black. And whenever Silent Blade Oni deals combat damage to a player, look at that player's hand. You may cast a non-land card in it without paying that card's mana cost. Very fun way to just cast your opponent's stuff. Then we have Fallen Shinobi, 3 blue-black for a 5/4 zombie ninja with ninjutsu for 2 blue-black. And whenever Fallen Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards without paying their mana costs. Again, we're just taking our opponent's decks and using it against them. Then we have Thousand-Faced Shadow, single blue mana for a 1/1 human ninja with ninjutsu for 2 blue-blue and flying. When Thousand-Faced Shadow enters the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. The token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. So it costs 4 to ninjutsu it, but if you use its ninjutsu ability, you get to copy something else you have that's attacking. I've used this to make a couple Silent Blade Onis, which was fun. I've used this to make a couple Massacre Girls, which was fun. Getting to board wipe if necessary after Massacre Girl has already done her thing. Next we have Prosperous Thief, 2 and a blue for a 3/2 human ninja with ninjutsu for 1 and a blue. And whenever 1 or more ninja or rogue creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Just decent. You get mana back for hitting with your creatures. Next up is Moonsnare Specialist, 3 and a blue for a 2/2 human ninja with ninjutsu for 2 and a blue. And whenever Moonsnare Specialist enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. This is one of the ways that I like to return something of mine that's maybe going to be killed before it gets to hit, or possibly unsummon something that my opponent has that's problematic. And it is an enters trigger. So famously, why ninjutsu is broken and why it was quote-unquote fixed in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set with Sneak is because ninjutsu has this weird timing thing of how I said, as long as you have an unblocked attacking creature, you can pay a ninjutsu cost, right? Well, there is a phase post-combat damage where you are still considered unblocked and attacking. So why ninjutsu is broken is because you could, in theory, if you have the mana for it, ninjutsu something in, have it do its thing, and then ninjutsu something else in its place after the damage has been dealt, so that you could save that creature, potentially. Next we have Futurist Operative, 3 and a blue for a 3/4 human ninja. As long as Futurist Operative is tapped, it's a human citizen with base power and toughness 1/1 and can't be blocked. So, when it's untapped, it's a ninja. But you tap to attack with it, it becomes a 1/1 unblockable. You can pay 2 and a blue to untap Futurist Operative. So, you can attack with it, it becomes a 1/1 unblockable, perfect target to ninjutsu something else in its place. Or, if you need it to be a ninja to deal damage, you wait until after all the blockers are declared, you can pay 3, it untaps, it hits opponent for 3, and is a ninja now, and will trigger all of your cares about ninja's abilities. Next up we have Sakashima's Student, 2 blue for a 0/0 human ninja with ninjutsu for 1 and a blue. You may have Sakashima's Student enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's a ninja in addition to its other types. It's just a perfect clone. Then we have Ninja of the Deep Hours, 3 and a blue for a 2/2 human ninja with ninjutsu for 1 and a blue. Whenever Ninja of the Deep Hours deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. This is great with the it wasn't the Fallen Shinobi. It was the Ingenious Infiltrator. So, Ingenious Infiltrator wants a ninja to deal combat damage to a player to draw a card. Ninja of the Deep Hours, if he hits, draws you a card. So if you attack with a single Ninja of the Deep Hours and hit, you get 2 cards if you have them both. Then we have Moonblade Shinobi, 3 and a blue for a 3/2 human ninja with ninjutsu for 2 and a blue. Whenever Moonblade Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying. So again, we want to be able to make these evasive tokens so that we can have targets to ninjutsu back to our hand. Targets that can get an unblocked so that we can return them to our hand. They'll cease to exist, but then we get to activate our ninjutsu abilities. Next we have Mist Syndicate Naga, 2 and a blue for a 3/1 Naga Ninja with ninjutsu for 2 and a blue. Whenever Mist Syndicate Naga deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of Mist Syndicate Naga. Each of those tokens also have this ability. This can make a lot of Naga very quickly. I used Mist Syndicate Naga with, I've forgotten her name already. Tetsuko Umezawa. Because she cares about creatures with power or toughness 1 or less. So Mist Syndicate Naga is just unblockable. So, and then it hits for 3, it makes a token that copies it, then you swing with the token and the original, and each of those makes a token, and so you can just keep making a ton of these Mist Syndicate Naga that your opponent can't really do much about, unless they have removal or a big board wipe. Next we have Talion's Messenger, 2 and a blue for a 1/3 Fairy Noble with flying, and whenever you attack with 1 or more fairies, draw a card, then discard a card. When you discard a card this way, you put a +1/+1 counter on target fairy you control. So again, we have kind of a sub-theme of caring about fairies, This is a great way to boost some of those fairies and get us some card selection. Then we have Mist Cloaked Herald, single blue mana for a 1/1 Merfolk Warrior. Mist Herald can't be blocked. This is one of the many just unblockable things that we love to see in an opening hand, because it means that we're just going to be sending this into the red zone every chance we can. And we have Triton Shorestalker, same exact thing effectively. It's a single blue mana for a 1/1 Merfolk Rogue, so it will trigger any of our things that care about rogues. And Triton Shorestalker can't be blocked. So just another good 1/1 unblockable. And we have Dokuchi Shadowwalker, 4 black for a 5/5 Ogre Ninja with ninjutsu for 3 and a black. It's not necessarily the flashiest thing in the world, but you know, if you need 5 damage for only 4 mana, then the Shadowwalker's got you. Next up is Inkrise Infiltrator, 1 and a black for a 1/2 human ninja with flying, and you can pay 3 and a black, and Inkrise Infiltrator gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If you have the mana, you can keep paying that, so you can make it even larger. So for 4 mana, it becomes a 3/4 with flying. But you could make it a 5/6 or a 7/8, however big you need it, as long as you have the mana. Next we have Biting Palm Ninja, one of my favorites. 2 and a black for a 3/3 human ninja with ninjutsu for 2 and a black. And Biting Palm Ninja enters the battlefield with a menace counter on it. Whenever Biting Palm Ninja deals combat damage to a player, you may remove a menace counter from it. When you do, that player reveals their hand, and you choose a non-land card from it. Exile that card. I like that it just does hand hate things, and coming in with a menace counter on it means that if you don't remove the counter right away, it is going to be harder for your opponents to block it. So you might be able to swing with it again on the next turn after you ninjutsu it in, and possibly return something else. It's one of my favorite little pieces for hand hate. Then we have Dokuchi Silencer, 1 and a black for a 2/1 human ninja with ninjutsu for 1 and a black. So same cost as casting, but whenever Dokuchi Silencer deals combat damage to a player, you may discard a creature card. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker that player controls. This one's a lot of fun if you don't need your 1/1 unblockable merfolk anymore. You just ninjutsu this in its place, you discard that merfolk, and you get to kill something on your opponent's board. And we have Throat Seeker, 2 and a black for a 3/2 vampire ninja. Unblocked attacking ninjas you control have lifelink. I love this one with Nashi, because he has us pay life for the things that we're stealing. This giving our ninjas lifelink definitely helps keep us alive. Then we have Azra Smoke Shaper, 3 and a black for a 3/3 Azra ninja with ninjutsu for 1 and a black. And when Azra Smoke Shaper enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. It's a great way to pull a got 'em on your opponents. If they think that they're going to block something of yours and kill it, you get to ninja this one in its place, save the thing you had from dying, and get 3 damage on their face. Then again, like I said, we care about making evasive tokens, or things that your opponents are not going to be able to or want to block. This is one of those ways with Orpheomancer, 2 and a black for a 2/2 human shaman. Says at the beginning of each upkeep, if you control no snakes, create a 1/1 black snake creature token with Death Touch. This is one that is great because you get to just, beginning of your upkeep, if you have no snakes, you make a Death Touch snake. You send that snake into combat, and then you ninjutsu it for something else. You hit your opponent with that because they're not going to want to block a 1/1 with Death Touch. And then that snake ceases to exist, and then on your opponent's next upkeep, you make that snake again. So it's just very consistent. Next we have Nadier's Nightblade, 2 and a black for a 1/3 elf warrior. With whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So this is in there because of those snake tokens and some other tokens that you will see very soon that we make a lot of. Could also work with the 1/1 blue illusion tokens or the Mist Syndicate Naga tokens that we make. Anytime we are using our ninjutsu ability, those are leaving the battlefield, and this is draining the table. And our final little unblockable idiot that I love. This is my favorite unblockable in the deck. This is Changeling Outcast. 1 black mana for a 1/1 shapeshifter with Changeling. This card is every creature type, so it will trigger any of the assassin things we have. It will trigger any of the rogue things we have. It will trigger any of the ninja things we have. And Changeling Outcast can't block or be blocked. So he just loves to keep attacking and getting returned to your hand to be a ninja. All right, moving right along into the next stack here, we have Moon Circuit Hacker, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 enchantment creature human ninja with ninjutsu for a single blue. Whenever Moon Circuit Hacker deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card unless Moon Circuit Hacker entered the battlefield this turn. So it's a very nice little ninjutsu creature for a single mana. You get 2 damage, you're getting to draw a card, and you don't have to discard on the turn he entered. It's a great little advantage there. Plus, enchantment creature could matter. Next we have Baleful Strix, another great ninjutsu target. Blue and a black for a 1/1 artifact creature bird with flying and death touch, and when Baleful Strix enters the battlefield, draw a card. I love returning Baleful Strix to hand to ninjutsu something in, and then post-combat you cast it again to draw a card, then you get to send it on your next turn, ninja something else in, put this back into play in second main phase, drawing cards. It's just very, very good in a ninjutsu deck. Next up we have Nezumi Prowler, 1 and a black for an artifact creature rat ninja, 3/1 with ninjutsu, 1 and a black. When Nezumi Prowler enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains death touch and lifelink until end of turn. I love doing this one when I have more than one thing I'm ninjaing in. Ninjutsu in, say, Ulamog or Kozilek, and do Nezumi Prowler in place of another one, and then you just give that big Eldrazi death touch and lifelink. It's very fun. After that, we have Mukotai Ambusher, 3 and a black for a 3/2 artifact creature rat ninja with ninjutsu for 1 and a black, and just has lifelink. Just a good little consistent 3/2 for 2 that gains you some life. Next up's Covert Technician, 2 and a blue for an artifact creature human ninja, 2/4 with ninjutsu for 1 and a blue. Whenever Covert Technician deals combat damage to a player, you may put an artifact card with mana value less than or equal to the damage that damage from your hand onto the battlefield. So it does care about artifacts, and it deals 2 damage. But any of our smaller things, my personal favorite is if you have Covert Technician and Baleful Strix, they work really good in tandem because Baleful Strix is an artifact. So you can swing with Baleful Strix, ninjutsu Covert Technician in, you return the Baleful Strix, Covert Technician deals 2 damage, you get Baleful Strix back out for free, and you get to draw another card. Just a nice little fun interaction. Or you could also put in this Ginger Brute into play. Ginger Brute costs 1 mana, is a 1/1 artifact creature food golem, has haste, and you can pay 1. Ginger Brute can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. It's very narrow unblockable, but very often your opponents don't have a lot of haste creatures, unless maybe you're against like a goblin deck. So not a bad little, hey, I'm going to pay 1, he's going to be unblockable, I'm going to use it as a ninjutsu target, I'll bring him back in for 1 mana. But also, if they do manage to block it or sneak something in, you can always pay 2, tap, and sacrifice Ginger Brute. You gain 3 life. Next, we have Circuit Mender, 3 mana for an artifact creature insect, 2/3. With when Circuit Mender enters, you gain 2 life. And when Circuit Mender leaves the battlefield, draw a card. So I like to use this one as a good ninjutsu target because we're returning it to hand. It draws us a card. And then you replay it in second main and you gain 2 life. And then you can just keep doing that. And this is the big one. A lot of people really hate that this card is in the deck, but game's gotta end, right? We have Blightsteel Colossus, better known as One-Shot Robot. 12 mana for an 11/11 artifact creature golem. Has trample, infect, and indestructible. And if Blightsteel Colossus would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal Blightsteel Colossus and shuffle it into its owner's library instead. So with Satoru, you can ninjutsu in Blightsteel Colossus for 4 mana. It's going to hit for 11, which is infect, and instantly kill the player that it hits. So this is why it's called the One-Shot Robot. Next up we have Mirror Box, 3 mana for an artifact. The legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. With how many things we've seen that can make us copies or come in as copies, having the ability to not legend rule ourselves is kind of nice, especially if you can copy your Blightsteel Colossus, for example. Well, Blightsteel is actually not legendary, so that doesn't matter. Never mind. It's for your other legendary things. Also, each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1. It's just a nice little boost to the board. And each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. So, for example, Sakashima's student comes in, he's going to get a boost, and another boost for the thing that he's copying. Then we get into our mana rocks. We have Soul Ring, 1 mana artifact, taps for 2 colorless. Arcane Signet, 2 mana artifact, taps for a color in our commander's color identity. Commander's Sphere, 3 mana artifact that taps for 1 mana of any color in our commander's color identity. And you can sacrifice Commander's Sphere to draw a card. Dimir Signet, 2 mana artifact that you pay 1 and tap to add a blue and a black. Thought Vessel, 2 mana artifact. You have no maximum hand size and taps for a colorless. This is a nice little backup piece to have because of how many cards you potentially draw in this deck with Satoru's ability and many of your other ninjas. And Bident of Thassa, another reason to have that Thought Vessel. Bident of Thassa is a 2 blue for a legendary enchantment artifact. With whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. And you can pay 1 and a blue and tap. Creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. It's kind of nice if you do have a bunch of untapped stuff and you need your opponents to attack with things so that they're tapped down so that you can try and get in. And you get card draw off of it. And then moving into the last of our non-land cards. Up first, we have Feywild Visitor, 2 and a blue for a legendary enchantment background. Commander creatures you own have whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you create a 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature token with flying. So again, that sub-theme of fairies showing up. 1/1s with flying there. And it gives our commander this ability. So whenever we ninjutsu, we attack with the fairy dragon we make, we ninjutsu it to our hand for something else, that thing hits, and we make a 1/1 fairy dragon. So again, it's just that replaceability. And there was the big one when I said we cared about, there's a sub-theme of fairies in this deck. This is Bitter Blossom. 1 and a black for a tribal enchantment. This has now been renamed to Kindred Enchantment, Fairy. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 black fairy rogue creature token with flying. So again, triggers off things that care about rogues we have in our deck. It's a fairy, so it triggers off of anything that cares about that. Has flying, so it's evasive. And we're getting 1 on each of our turns for the cost of 1 life. So we consistently will have something we should be able to ninjutsu in our battlefield. Next up is As Foretold. 2 and a blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on As Foretold. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast with mana value X or less, where X is the number of time counters on As Foretold. This is in here because we do have some higher mana cost things, and the ability to pay 0 for them is kind of nice, especially, like I said, where we have some of those creatures that we want to be able to attack with, return to hand for a ninjutsu ability. We then have to pay more mana to play the thing again. Well, if we have As Foretold out, then we don't have to pay for that second thing if it's the first spell we cast. Well, the first time we've used that ability, I should say. Next is Phyrexian Arena. 1 black for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and lose a life. It's just good, consistent, keeping your hand full of cards. Then we have Coerced to Kill. 3 blue-black for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. You control enchanted creature. So again, theft. We're doing ninja theft. An enchanted creature has base power and toughness 1/1, has death touch, and is an assassin in addition to its other types. So this will trigger our cares about assassin stuff. Again, it's a 1/1 with death touch, so people are less inclined to block it, and we can just take something of our opponents and hit them with it. Moving into our planeswalkers for this deck, we have Kaito Dancing Shadow. 2 blue-black for legendary planeswalker Kaito. Enters with 3 loyalty and has, whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you may return 1 of them to its owner's hand. If you do, you may activate loyalty abilities of Kaito twice this turn rather than once. So what this is saying is you ninja something in and you hit an opponent, right? And then we can return that creature to our hand so that we could then ninjutsu it again the next turn. And we get to use Kaito twice, which is kind of nice, because his +1 is up to 1 target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. So it's removing something from being able to hit you and being able to block your stuff. You could 0 loyalty, draw a card. Just love to draw cards. And -2, you make a 2/2 colorless drone artifact creature token with death touch. And when this creature leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So again, making another token that we can bounce back to hand with ninjutsu, which causes them to lose 2 life, us to gain 2 life, and we can activate Kaito a second time. So pretty nice little synergy in a ninja deck. Moving on, we have the original Kaito Shizuki. 1 blue-black for a legendary planeswalker Kaito. Enters with 3 loyalty and has, at the beginning of your end step, if Kaito Shizuki entered the battlefield this turn, he phases out. So we can bring him into play, and then at the end of our turn, he'll phase out. So he won't come back until the start of our next turn. So he'll be safe for a full round the turn that we play him. +1, draw a card, then discard a card unless you attack this turn. We're in ninjas, we're going to be attacking. -2, create a 1/1 blue ninja creature token with this creature can't be blocked. Again, we love that. The consistency, it's a ninja, so it'll trigger any of our things that care about ninjas dealing damage. And because it can't be blocked, it's a perfect target to ninjutsu something. And for -7, you get an emblem with, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a blue or black creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So he just gets us stuff, which is great. Having that emblem with a creature we control deals combat damage, you tutor something up and put it into play, that can make your board state go crazy. After that, we have C double, again, the clone jutsu. C double is 2 blue. For an instant, this spell can't be copied, but that's okay. Choose one. If an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, you may choose both. And the modes are copy target spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. You can copy permanent spells. So if your opponent's playing a creature, you could just copy their creature and get one of your own. Or you create a token that's a copy of target creature. It could also be both if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. So your opponent goes to cast a creature, you copy something of theirs, you copy the spell they're casting. You get 2 creatures for 4 mana if they have 8 or more cards in their graveyard, which is not that hard to do late game. Then we get into some of our removal with Rapid Hybridization. 1 blue for an instant. Destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. That creature's controller creates a 3/3 green frog lizard creature token. It's just efficient removal in blue. Next we have March of Swirling Mist. X and a blue for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may exile any number of blue cards from your hand. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way, and it's up to X target creatures phase out. So this is a little bit of board wipe protection, right? If we have a bunch of blue cards in our hand, we can pitch them and make X equal 2 for each one we get rid of. And because whatever X equals, that's how many targets we have phase out. So you pitch a single card, you have 2 creatures phase out. You pitch 2 cards, you get 4 creatures phase out. But you could also just pay mana into that. So the nice thing about this is note that it is creatures phasing out. It doesn't say your creatures. So this has good modality in that it can protect our board from like a board wipe. But also, if our opponent has a couple blockers that we're worried about, you could use this to phase out their creatures so that you can get in unblocked. Next up, Game Changer Alert, we have Demonic Tutor. 1 and a black for a sorcery. Search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, then shuffle. You just sometimes need to go hard, search up your one-shot robot so you can kill an opponent and end the game. Then we have Mastermind's Acquisition. 2 black for a sorcery. Choose one, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Or choose a card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand. Now, in Commander, that second mode is not possible because you don't really have a sideboard in Commander. But it's effectively Diabolic Tutor, right? You pay 4 mana, go get something from your deck that you need. Next we have Diabolic Intent. 1 and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, then shuffle. Again, it's more consistency in that tutor realm of we need to get this thing so that we can make use of it. And we have the singular board wipe big removal spell in our deck, Death Cloud. This is X black for a sorcery that says each player loses X life, then discards X cards from his or her hand, then sacrifices X creatures, then sacrifices X lands. So, yes, it's expensive to do, but sometimes you only need 2 or 3 things removed. So this is a great way to do that. And because we have the ability to draw a lot of cards in this deck, we have plenty of ways to discard cards. We typically will have a few creatures that we're willing to get rid of. We typically will have some excess lands that we're happy to get rid of. But this is a way to remove problems so that you can swing in unblocked. And that's it for the non-creatures. Moving into our non-basic lands, we have Secluded Courtyard, great kindred type of land. As Secluded Courtyard enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. It taps for colorless, or tap at 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, or activate an ability of a creature or creature card of the chosen type. So, of course, you choose Ninja in this deck. Then we have Command Tower. You know it, you love it. Taps for a mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Path of Ancestry enters tap. Taps for a mana of our color's identity. And if we cast a creature that shares a type with our commander, you scry 1. Next we have Lotus Field. This is a land that has hexproof. Enters the battlefield tapped. And when Lotus Field enters the battlefield, you sacrifice 2 lands. But it taps for 3 mana of any one color. So it does even out in the long run, but again, Clone Jutsu exists because our next land is Thespian Stage. So Thespian Stage is a land that taps for colorless, or you can pay 2 and tap. Thespian Stage becomes a copy of target land, except it has this copy ability. The thing you typically want to copy is Lotus Field, so that it's already entered the battlefield. It just becomes another Lotus Field. So then you have 2 lands that make you 3 mana. Next we have Emergence Zone. It's a land taps for colorless, or you can pay 1, tap, and sacrifice Emergence Zone. You may cast spells this turn as though they had flash. Sometimes you just need to cast stuff on opponents' turns. Next we have Terramorphic Expanse. You tap, sacrifice Terramorphic Expanse, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. Evolving Wilds does exactly the same thing as Terramorphic Expanse. Tap, sack, get a basic, put it into play tapped. Reliquary Tower, backup for that no max hand size that we love, and taps for colorless. Now into our blue and black lands, we have Morphic Pool. Morphic Pool enters the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. So this is one of the Battle Bond lands. So it's a good little untapped duel. Dark Slick Shores enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. So this is the one that you want to see no later than turn 3. Next up is Dismal Backwater. Enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters, you gain a life. It taps for a blue or a black. Restless Reef. This enters the battlefield tapped. Taps for a blue or a black. And you can pay 2 blue-black until end of turn. Restless Reef becomes a 4/4 blue and black shark creature with Death Touch that's still a land. And whenever Reckless Reef attacks, target player mills 4 cards. So if you just absolutely need a Death Touch creature to be able to attack, or you just want to mill your opponent out, you can pour some mana into this and make it a creature. Next up is Undercity Sewers. This is an island swamp. Undercity Sewers enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters, surveil 1. And because it's an island swamp, it'll tap for blue or black. Next we have Shipwreck Marsh. This enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. So again, this is the one you want to see on turn 3 or later. But if it does, show up before then, hey, how often do you need an untapped land on turn 1 or 2? And taps for a blue or black. And then we have Watery Grave. This is the full art foil from the Clue Magic product. This is an island swamp. It enters the battlefield. As it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. And because it's an island swamp, taps for blue or black. And final non-basic in the deck, we have Minas Morgul, which is a reprint of Cabal Coffers. This is a land that you can pay 2 and tap to add black mana for each swamp you control. We have a few swamps in the deck. There's not a whole lot. We don't run the other piece of this that turns all lands into swamps. But we have a couple of those dual type lands that are swamps. We have some basics that are swamps. And plus, I just thought it was pretty dope art. This is the foil Lord of the Rings version of Cabal Coffers. All right. A couple non-basics left. We move into our legendary lands next. We have Odawara Soaring City, legendary land, taps for blue, and has channel for 3 and a blue, discard Odawara Soaring City. Return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. It's pretty decent board wipe protection if you need to save something you have from removal, or possibly remove an opponent's blocker or problematic creature, or if they're playing Rhystic Study and you want it off the table. There's a number of uses for an Odawara. Likewise, we have Takenuma, Abandoned Mire. This is a legendary land, taps for black mana, and has channel for 3 and a black, discard Takenuma Abandoned Mire, mill 3 cards, then return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So, good recursion if something of ours dies and we want it back to do it all again. Moving into our basics, we have our islands. There's the Oil Slicked Foil Island. We have the Phyrexian Full Art Foil Island. The All Will Be One Full Art Foil Island. A Full Art Kamigawa Foil Island. This is one of my favorite arts in the set. It has the paper cranes on it. We have the non-foil other art for the Kamigawa Island. We have the non-full art foil Kamigawa Islands. Both of those. And then we have Oil Slick Foil Swamp. Again, I really dig how the art looks on those. We have the Phyrexian Full Art Foil Swamp. All Will Be One Full Art Foil Swamp. Non-foil Kamigawa Full Art Land. This is the Reeds one. Then we have, this is my favorite land from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. This is a full art foil, the Cityscape one. The foiling looks super cool with the rain, and you got the paper lanterns on there. It's my favorite land art in the entire Kamigawa set. Then into our non-full art Kamigawa lands, in foil, we have the Swamp. The other art for the Swamp. And that's it for our Ninja deck. Alright, so that was the decks for today, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Again, sometimes it's fun to talk about some higher bracket power level decks. Both of the decks that we saw here today are bracket 4 decks. Once again, the deck lists are in the pinned comment in chat with links to the Architect Decklists. In addition, if you want to check out all of our deck lists on Archidekt, it's real easy. You can just search up Triune System on archidekt.com. That's ARCHIDEKT.com. Or there's a handy dandy link in the About section on this here Twitch page. Yeah, that's been another episode of Such a Brew About Nothing. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's go find a friendo to raid, shall we? It likely will be Team Evil 1991, as often is the case. We love the guru, and we like to spread the love forward at the end of a stream. So you're going to see some messages popping up in chat there, both the raid and sub-raid message. I know that it doesn't show the emote on the sub-raid one, but I promise if you're subbed to the channel and you copy that version, it will post the emote. So let's go on ahead and get ready to raid JR, Team Evil 1991. Assuming he's still on, he should be. He was still on when I booted up the stream earlier, so there we go. Yeah, he's playing some Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation. So, once again, want to thank you all so very much for watching. It has been my absolute pleasure being your entertainment for this evening. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Do remember that you can check out the VODs for this immediately after the stream is over on Twitch, or the next day on YouTube at youtube.com/@TriuneSystem. We do even have a handy dandy little playlist there for this podcast if you want to be able to just throw something on in the background and listen while you work. We do appreciate any and all support on this channel, even if it's just quietly being entertained. That's okay too. But until the next time, friends, I've been Triune. You've been amazing. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you in the next one. I hope your bags are packed, because let's raid.